So I want to say this off the rip. I like this young man. Like I think that I get where what he's trying to do. And I haven't consumed a lot of his content. I've only come across a few videos. People send me his videos. And I don't know if the people who send me his videos think that I would agree with him or disagree, but they're sending me his videos. I think, I don't know. But I made a video about something that he said the other day, and I pretty much completely disagree with what he was saying, right? And this video is no different. Like I disagree. I couldn't disagree more. And we need to get into it, but I just wanted to say that at the beginning, like, if this guy ever comes across this content or whatever, I really want you to understand, I don't have a problem with you personally. Like, I actually think, and I'm saying this, you guys know, like, I don't say this about these dudes. Normally I go after these cats and I really genuinely don't care what they think or whatever, but I want this young man to know that I actually think he's like a cool dude. From what I can tell, I like his approach. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like his enthusiasm, right? And I think I like his message. I think, but there's only so many times I can disagree before I start to think like, okay, maybe there's something a little bit more insidious here and nefarious here afoot. But I don't think that with him. I don't get that impression from him. I just think that he doesn't fully understand what he's saying. I don't. And I think he is very much miseducated on these topics, to be honest with you. So I'm hoping that maybe we could, like, this will be like a teachable moment. And I could be wrong, by the way. I'm open to being, you can say I'm wrong too, but I think his approach is wrong in general.
Let's talk about submission and leadership, because I think this is an important question or even discussion for Black men to have. Submission in relationships is a Eurocentric concept. It comes from a word.
It's not. Like, this, full stop. This is just right off the rip. I'm going to let it play. It's not. Submission is not a Eurocentric concept. Black men on the continent of Africa had women submitting. Asian men on the continent of Asia had women submitting before Europeans did. Now, there is a Eurocentric component, or there is a Eurocentric approach to it that may be different than the African approach, or different than the American, or the American approach, or different from the different from the Asian approach. But on every continent, men were forcing women to submit. Before Europeans were even a thought, Black men were making Black women submit. The concept of submission already existed, right? Genghis Khan conquered half the world at one point in time. He was roaming around. He had 10,000 children, they say. Something crazy like that. When they did, I remember watching this documentary on him, and they said that basically his genetic marker, like, basically he populated the earth more than any other man in the history of mankind. Right? That idea comes from the idea of submission, by the way. That's why I'm mentioning that. That existed before Europeans went through the Dark Ages. That already had happened. That's what I'm saying. So let's not say stuff like that. That in and of itself is misguided. And the reason why it's important is because if you start, like, essentially, it's like having an infected area, right? And the infection is this deep. When you start at Europeans, you start cutting the infection right here. So there's all this infection that still exists. See what I'm saying? Yeah, okay, you cut out half the infection or a quarter of the infection or whatever, but there's still 2/3 of the infection that exists. And it's just going to grow right back, right? So you must cut it at its root. You must cut it underneath the infection like that and get rid of it, right? You're not pulling at the root. You're pulling at a leaf. You're pulling at a branch. When you say Europeans came up with the concept of women submitting to men, they did not. They stole it like they steal everything. They stole it. They didn't come up with the concept of it. Just like they didn't come up with the concept of slavery. They stole it and they changed it into something, and they furthered it. They made it worse, but they were not the first group of people to practice slavery. They were not the first group of people to practice submission. Women submitting specifically. Concubines existed well before Europeans were even a thing.
Where white men are given wealth and power by the state, and white women submitted because they. Let's talk about submission and leadership, because I think this is an important question or even discussion for black men to have. Submission in relationships is a Eurocentric concept. It comes from a world where white men are given wealth and power by the state, and white women submitted because they have financial security from the government back.
I'm sorry, real quick, because I just clocked something. He said, in a relationship, my brother, I want you to understand, you can't, if women were submitting everywhere else in life, in any other place on this planet, they were also submitting in the bedroom. They were also submitting in the house. Just so you know, it trickles down. I got to say it every single time. It trickles down. Okay. It trickles down. The concept of submission didn't start in relationships. That's not where it started. It started with labor. You know what I'm saying? It started to, like, I'm pretty sure it started with labor. It started with labor. And then it trickled down. So no, again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Submission is submission is submission. The concept of submission in a relationship definitely existed well before Europe was a thing.
Let's talk about submission and leadership, because I think this is an important question or even discussion for black men to have. Submission in relationships is a Eurocentric concept. It comes from a world where white men are given wealth and power by the state, and white women submitted because they have financial security from the government-backed wealth, right? Black men were never given that power. That never happened.
White women submitted because they didn't have another option, brother. It wasn't like they offered white women the opportunities to go to college and have jobs, gainful employment, and so on and so forth. And then the white woman still was like, nah, you know what? I choose to stay home and get my head beat in. That's not what happened. They literally didn't have a choice but to submit. They didn't have a choice.
Right? Black women were never given that security. That never happened. So why are we trying to force a model that was never designed for us? The real question isn't, should women submit? The real question is, what does fair leadership and partnership look like in a black relationship? Because submission without resources is oppression, right? Leadership without accountability is dictatorship.
Submission is oppression, full stop. Doesn't matter. Submission is oppression, full stop. In this context, submission is oppression, full stop. So essentially, what you're saying is if the man makes enough money and provides enough resources, then that woman should submit. That's okay. That's not oppressive. Submission is oppressive, no matter what the circumstances are, brother. Sorry to tell you that.
Okay, so we got to actually be serious about this a little bit as black men and as black women calling a black man a leader, right? Because we need to be able to talk about this. Let's talk about why some black men want submission and why black women are rejecting it, right? Some black men want submission because they've been taught that masculinity is tied to dominance, not collaboration. They believe submission equals respect because they've seen white men get it that way.
Masculinity is not tied to cooperation. Femininity is tied to cooperation. Femininity teaches egalitarianism and masculinity teaches hyper individuality. Right? So they're right. That is what masculinity is. That's literally, masculinity is all about the individual. Me getting mine. You serve me. What can you do for me? Women are like, what can I do for you? What can I do for the community? Men go, what can I take from the community?
White men get it that way. They also feel like they're fighting society and their women, and they want to break from the constant battles, right? The problem is that society never gave black men the critical financial or political backing that led to lead like white men did, right? Like it never happened. That
white men are terrible leaders, brother. White men are terrible leaders. Even with all the resources and the backings and white men are terrible leaders. This is what I'm saying. We have to stop pedestalizing whiteness and white people in this way, acting like white people are fucked up too. Like, come on. Their women are unhappy too. The men are abusive too. Their families are broken too. They're poor as well. They're like, stop pedestalizing them. It's okay. Two things. I understand what you're saying as far as the system isn't built for us. That's a different conversation. There's no disagreement there. I'm saying, though, you acting as if white men were just look like leaders in their home and it functioned the same. White home, black home functioned the same in this way. The women were forced into submission in the white home. The women were forced into submission in the black home. Period. The women did not like the roles in either home. The men were self-proclaimed and ordained leaders. The white men were. Black men, same thing. Both men were terrible. Both men are terrible. Both groups of men, because the men that want a woman to submit are 99.9% of the time going to be shitty leaders. Just period, point blank. No intelligent man is looking for, no empathetic, intelligent man is looking to have a woman submit to him. And you need intelligence and empathy to be a good leader. So by default, you can already know off the rip, these men were not good leaders. And the vast majority of the time, their families floundered and failed and suffered. White men, black men. With all the financial backings that the white men have, with all the political, it doesn't matter. They were fucking failing.
The critical financial or political backing that led to lead like white men did, right? Like it never happened. That whole leadership thing was an illusion, right? Like it wasn't going the same way. What a black leader is looks different from a white leader, right? Like a black woman's submission is fundamentally different than a white woman's submission. We need to take it serious.
How? I'm curious. What this is news to me. How? I'm very curious. How is it different? In what aspects? In what ways?
Seriously. So the issue is that when black men demand submission without offering security, it feels like another burden, not protection. And this is something that black guys need to even also understand. You cannot walk up to a woman offering leadership, but not offering security. It's like a thief walking up to you, right? And saying, let me hold your phone. It is quite literally the exact same vibe. Okay.
You should not be walking up to any woman talking about, I want to lead you. I don't care how much money you have. You should not be concerned with getting a woman to submit with you. I don't care how much resources, how many resources or how much money you can provide for her. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. You guys see, maybe I'm tripping, but I'm just saying this take is problematic to me. It's still, it's basic. This is Kevin Samuels light to me. This is the same pipeline. Like, yeah, man, you get enough money. Go now. You can go up to a woman now. That's like, is that what it all? That's all it is money base, like what resource base? Like what? What are we talking about?
Some of the reasons why black women are rejecting submission, they've been forced to survive without a safety net for generations. Period. I should stop there, but I'm gonna lock in. They expected to submit to leadership that hasn't proven stability. Right? Like it just hasn't. Right? They see submission as another form of unpaid labor and control. Right? So the problem is
that's what it is. Even for white women, when the man has money, that's what it is. That's what I'm saying. You clocked it right there. That's what it is. So it doesn't matter how much money you have. That's what it's fucking slavery for the woman. Black, white, Mexican, Asian, fat, tall, skinny, doesn't matter. It's slavery for the woman. What are we talking about? Why are we jumping through all these hoops and shit like that? Submission, marriage in and of itself should be abolished, but the concept of submitting in a relationship should be abolished. Full stop. It shouldn't exist in a relationship, period.
Submission is being framed as obedience and not partnership. Some of y'all just want obedience from black women in general.
Submission is obedience. It's not a partnership.
That isn't right? Like that isn't. I'm willing to almost say it isn't godly, right? Black women want support, not control. They aren't against good leadership, and I need that to be known. Black women are not against good leadership. They're against being left vulnerable. And I think that's the clearest thing I can put in. The solution is that black men need to redefine leadership and black women need to redefine partnership, right? Men need to stop seeing leadership as dominance. Women need to stop seeing partnership as submission, right? What leadership should look.
Women see partnership as submission? When did that happen? How do women? I need to talk to this guy. I do. I'm curious. He might be able to explain this. He really might be able. I mean, he's smart. You know what I'm saying? He's definitely intelligent. But that doesn't make sense to me at all. When did that happen? Men see submission as they don't see submission as partnership because it's not partnership. It's not a partnership. Or maybe men try to convince women that submission is partnership. That's true, and that's not what he's saying. But men try to convince women that submission is partnership, right? They even try to go as far as say, "I'll submit to her, she submit to me." That's just a partnership. That's not submission. That's just a partnership. That's cooperation.
Like providing security, emotional, financial, and strategic, not just money, right? Taking responsibility for decisions making with their partner, okay. Right? Take responsibility for decision making with your partner.
So if it's not just money, then you got to throw out all that first shit you were saying about the economic protections and yada, yada, yada.
Right? Not over her, with your partner. Right? Leading by example, not just expecting obedience. And here's what partnerships mean. Mutual respect, not one person having power over the other. Sharing labor fairly, whether it's financial, emotional, or household duties. Black women are so effective, right? When they get into a relationship, they usually start unpaid labor immediately. Right? Share it. Right? Both people bringing their strengths to the table.
Wait, are you saying that Black women do it and like, what? This is so, I must be tripping. Hold on. Let me listen to that part again. That was a weird take. Hold on.
Right? Take responsibility for decision making with your partner.
Okay.
Right? Not over her. With your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Leading by.
So that was him. This is him talking to the men. This is what I'm clocking, right? Okay.
By example, not just expecting obedience. And here's what partnerships mean. Mutual respect.
This is what partnerships mean. Okay.
Respect, not one person having power over the other. Sharing labor fairly, whether it's.
Yeah, that's why I said submission and partnership are not, they're not the same thing.
Financial, emotional, or household duties.
Okay.
Black women are so effective, right? When they get into a relationship, they usually start unpaid labor immediately.
Women do that, but I'm not saying, okay, I agree with that, but how is that the woman's fault? Are you telling men to share it? I'm confused, and I could be wrong about that. Maybe he's telling men that they need to share in that role. I think that's what he's saying. I'm going to assume that's what he's saying, because the other way makes zero sense to me. Like, are you telling women to, but instead of doing the labor, to share, like, yeah, move over, let the man help, like as if they wouldn't want the man to help? So that's why I'm confused.
Right? Share it. Right? Both people bringing their strengths to the table. Right? The real goal is that a relationship where neither partner feels overworked, unprotected, or unheard.
Yep. Right?
There was a woman that commented on this comment that made me think about this. Her name was Goddess Akasha. She's completely right? That mentality is key.
If he was talking to men that whole time, I wholeheartedly agree with everything that he said, and probably what he's gonna say. I can tell probably does, moving forward. All that shit was spot on. All that shit was spot on. That was a beautiful breakdown. Everything he said before this, very odd. Very odd.
Key. The issue isn't just submission, though. It's that that mentality is key. The issue isn't just submission, though. It's that we were given a relationship model. It's that we were never given a fair relationship model to begin with, right? Black men weren't given wealth and power like white men, and black women weren't given safety to submit like white women. So you're still dating white, right? Even to talk in a submission-based mentality, right? So instead of forcing a system that was never for us, we just got to build one that works for our reality. Where
dating is white. For all intents and purposes, dating is white. We just started dating in humanity recently. In the West, it started here. I don't know about in America, but it started in the West, started in Europe. Dating started in Europe. In Africa, but women were being sold off to men. There were no dating. They weren't courting each other. Like that wasn't the thing. It was, you know what I'm saying? Like it was, oh, you want to get married? Oh, okay. Like, or marriage wasn't a thing. You know what I'm saying? But like, yeah, no, if you were going to be like in a committed relationship and get married and stuff like that, it was give me it was dowries and shit like that. That was on the continent of Africa. So dating is a relatively new concept. Like, I'll call it modern dating, because I don't want somebody to be like, well, actually, anthropologists have uncovered in the year 10,000 BC. Like, I don't give a fuck about some loose concept of dating. I'm saying the way that we think of dating, that is a European thing. The whole thing is European. It's not African. It ain't Asian. It is a European thing. So, so it's not that we're dating white. It's that dating is a European concept in and of itself. Dating in and of itself is white by that metric. You know what I'm saying? If you look at it through that lens, I love the concept of dating. I don't care who invented it. I love the concept of dating. The reason why is because it's not that Europeans necessarily. It's just humanity. We just progressed, to this place. Right? Because women have fought back and women have, gained some semblance of power and control or whatever over their lives, or autonomy over their lives, that we don't force women into these situations as often as we used to, because it still happens, right? But it doesn't happen nearly as often. So now you have a situation where people they have to go out and prove themselves, aka date, to find a partner, to find partnership. That happened in the industrial age. That's late 1800s, early 1900s is, dating, modern dating. Could have happened in Germany. It could have happened in Europe. I don't know. But I know it wasn't, this is not something that we were doing on the continent of Africa.
Leadership means responsibility and partnership means fairness, because submission with no stability is not protection. It is just oppression.
Yeah. Submission is oppression again. Yeah, man, that was an interesting, like I said, I would just like to have a conversation with you, because I feel like maybe I could learn something. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. I'm open to it. I don't care. But like I said, when I'm hearing all of this stuff, I'm just like, this sounds very much like Kevin Samuels when he talking about men, just make money and, then you can get the woman you want type shit. And you can get her to do whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, if you make enough money, then it's justified to expect a woman to submit. And I think that that's bullshit. I think that idea is I sell it. I wholesale it on his face.